Taxes are special fees charged by a government on the people who live in a country, state, or city. These fees help pay for public services like police, road and bridge repair, and public schools. In the United States, people have to pay national, state, and local taxes. Income tax is a tax applied to how much money a person earns in a year. There are both federal and state income taxes. These have to be paid every year by April 15th. There are special forms the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, the government agency in charge of collecting taxes, asks people to fill out. There are tax credits that people with low income, college students, and parents can get. These credits could mean actually getting money back from the government. This money is called a tax refund. People can get both a federal and state tax refund. Anyone who works has to be taxed regardless of the immigration status. Not paying income taxes could mean a fine or even jail time. Payroll taxes are taxes that are taken right out of a person's paycheck. There are federal and state payroll taxes. These include Social Security and Medicare taxes. Social Security taxes pay for the retirement and disability benefits received by millions of Americans each year. Medicare taxes pay for the federal health insurance program that covers the elderly and the disabled. People who own houses pay property taxes. The amount paid depends on how much the property is worth. This tax is usually paid once a year. Sales tax is a tax almost everyone pays. Sales tax is a specific extra percentage charged on nearly all purchases. Everything from soap to furniture has a sales tax attached when bought. The amount of the sales tax is different across states and cities. Health insurance is one way to pay for health care. Healthcare includes visits to the doctor, prescription medication, and emergency services. People can pay for medicine and doctor visits directly in cash, or they can use health insurance. Health insurance usually means you pay less for these services. There are different types of health insurance. At some jobs, companies offer health insurance plans as part of a benefits package. Individuals can also buy health insurance. The elderly and disabled can get government-run health insurance through programs like Medicaid and Medicare. There are many different health insurance companies or plans. Each health plan has a set of doctors they work with. Once a person picks a plan, they pay a premium, which is a fixed amount of money every month. Once in a plan, a person picks a doctor they want to see from that plan. That doctor is the person's primary care provider. Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act, is a recently passed law that makes it easier for people to get health insurance. The law requires all Americans have health insurance by 2014. Those that do not get health insurance by the end of the year will have to pay a fine in the form of extra tax when they file for their income taxes. Through Obamacare, people can still get insurance through their jobs, privately or through Medicaid and Medicare. They can also buy health insurance through state marketplaces, where people can get help choosing a plan based on their income and healthcare needs. These marketplaces also create an easy way to compare what different plans offer. If people cannot afford to pay health insurance, they may qualify for government programs that offer free health insurance like Medicaid, Medicare, or for children. A special program called the Children's Health Insurance Program, CHIP. Immigration in the United States is a complicated and controversial issue. Since the founding of the country, people have come from different countries in search of a better life and opportunities. Immigration laws, however, are always changing and are complicated. This leads to many people coming into the U.S. without proper legal status. While some people call immigrants who come and stay in the U.S. without proper papers illegals, many consider this term offensive. The more acceptable term is undocumented, since they do not have the correct legal documents. It is estimated that there are more than 11 million undocumented people in the United States. While some people will say there is no reason for immigrants to be undocumented in the U.S., there are limits on the amount of green cards or legal permanent resident cards people from certain countries can get. There are also long waiting lists, up to 14 years in some cases, for people coming from certain countries to apply for legal status in the U.S. Additionally, there are a limited amount of visas or permits for people coming into the U.S. with manual labor skills. Millions of undocumented people have been deported or sent back to their country of origin under President Obama. In 2013, the U.S. Senate passed an immigration reform bill. The law adds extra border security along the U.S.-Mexico border and also makes it easier for immigrants to become citizens. The bill, which also has to be approved by the House of Representatives, has not yet been presented or voted on by Congress. Because of this, many are asking President Obama to take action to protect some of the undocumented, many of whom have been in the U.S. for many years and have children that are U.S. citizens. The American community college system is a place for second chances. Community college are two-year schools that thrived in California after the end of World War II. Many American military personnel were returning to civilian life after their service to their country. Some of these young people decided not to go to college after high school so that they could serve their country during that time of need. When they returned, many of them turned to the community college system in California to continue their education. The United States government introduced the GI Bill at the time, giving returning servicemen and women educational benefits to help them get back to school. Soon, community colleges and new school districts began appearing throughout the country. Community colleges helped ease returning military personnel back into college life. It was a low-cost, less stressful alternative to going back to a four-year university. Today, community colleges attract students from all parts of the world. In California, a large population of students comes from Asia and Latin America. These schools provide a second chance to international students who may have experienced difficulties attending college in their native countries. American students who may have not done well academically in high school and did not enter a university can turn to community college for a second chance too. Community colleges provide a much-needed resource for all these students. Foreign military personnel, international students, and high school students alike are all welcome. One of the best things about community colleges is that they accept anyone at any time. This means people who have not found what they want to do in life can try more than one area of study. If they don't like one course of study, they can always try something else. That is the beauty of community colleges. These days, many people attend community colleges with plans to transfer to a four-year college or university to get a bachelor's degree. It's kind of like a stepping stone. There are many reasons why people do this. One reason is that some community colleges have transfer agreements with private and state colleges and universities that guarantee admission. Even if a community college doesn't have the agreement of a guaranteed spot in a four-year college, it has articulation agreements with four-year schools. These agreements tell you exactly what classes a student in a community college needs to take in order to be able to transfer. These agreements make sure that students don't waste time taking classes that won't transfer. Most of these classes one needs to take before transferring are general education classes like math and English. Another reason why many students start their undergraduate degree at a community college is a financial one. A four-year college or university is much more expensive than a two-year college. This is especially true for immigrant students who don't qualify for financial aid, loans, or scholarships. Also, community colleges tend to offer more evening classes so they can accommodate people who have to work while attending school. They are also a good option for older students with families who need a more flexible schedule while taking care of children. Community colleges also tend to be commuter schools, meaning people don't have to live on a campus in dorms. Attending a community college means you can still live at home with your parents, which can save the family a huge amount of money. If a student didn't do well in high school, a community college would provide him or her with another opportunity to enter a four-year university. Community colleges offer many classes to help students develop their math and writing skills. When you attend a four-year college, you are expected to have those skills already. Community college will prepare students to successfully graduate from a four-year school. Most children in the U.S. begin school at age 5. When they go to kindergarten, this is the beginning of elementary or primary school. Most children stay in elementary schools till they are about 11 years old. Elementary schools are divided by grades. The youngest children begin in kindergarten at age 5 and then go to first grade. second grade, and so on. Most elementary schools go up to 5th or 6th grade. The focus of an elementary school is basic academic and socialization skills. Mostly children learn how to read, write, count, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Students also learn the rules of English grammar, spelling, and vocabulary. Children also learn basic social studies, or history, science, art, and music skills, and participate in gym or physical education. In elementary schools, children also learn how to follow directions, share, and work in groups. Students usually stay in one classroom all day with one teacher who stays with them throughout the year. Students may leave the classroom to visit the school library, the school gym, and attend special science, art, and music classes. Students also usually leave the classroom for lunch and recess. For lunch, students sit at tables, separated by grade in a large cafeteria. Recess is usually half an hour, when children go into a yard to play. The typical school day starts at about 8 in the morning and ends at about 3 p.m. Students go to school from Monday to Friday and have the weekends off. Elementary school teachers are licensed by the state where they work. They have to graduate from college or even graduate school, taking special classes in early childhood and elementary education. Before teachers can be in a classroom with students, they have to pass a background check and take an exam. Once a child finishes 5th or 6th grade in elementary school, they graduate and go on to middle school or junior high school. This school is a separate building or a set of buildings. Most students in middle school are between the ages of 10 and 14. The grade system continues in middle school. Middle school usually starts with 6th or 7th grade and ends with 8th grade. While they are less common, some elementary schools go from kindergarten to 8th grade. Most students are assigned a middle school based on where they live. However, there are charter, private, and specialized public middle schools that have an application process. The purpose of middle school is to provide a transition period between elementary school and high school. Middle school prepares students for high school life. In middle school, students don't stay in one classroom all day with one teacher. Students can change classrooms for different subjects and have different teachers for each subject. In middle school, some students may even be able to choose some of their own classes, called electives. There is a set core of classes that all students have to take. These include English, math, science, and social studies, or history classes. Gym or physical education classes are also required. A common feature of middle school is a homeroom, which is a classroom students visit at a scheduled time once a day or once a week. A homeroom teacher takes attendance and makes announcements of things students need to know. The homeroom also helps students feel like there is one common place and one common teacher they see regularly. This is to help with the transition from elementary school to secondary school. Once a student finishes middle school, they have a graduation ceremony and go to a high school assigned to them or a high school they picked. After middle or junior high school, U.S. students go to high school. Going to school is free in the United States, including high schools. Students do not need to pay tuitions or even textbooks, and lunches are free. Of course, we are talking about public schools. If parents choose to send their kids to private schools, they need to pay very expensive tuitions. High school is the last 4 years of school that students in the U.S. are required to attend by law. High school students are divided by grades. It begins at 9th grade and finishes with 12th grade. Some high schools, even public high schools, have admission exams or an application process. Public schools admit students based on where they live. In order to successfully complete high school, students have to complete a series of core classes including math, English, science, history, a foreign language, and gym or physical education. Students usually can also choose to take electives or specialized courses in a subject that interests them. Some high schools in the U.S. have exit exams that students are required to pass in addition to completing their course in order to graduate and earn a high school diploma. A law called the No Child Left Behind Act requires high schools that get federal money to make students take a standardized exam every year. A high school diploma is required for students who want to continue on to college and is considered a minimum requirement for any jobs. High school classes are designed to prepare students for college. Some high schools offer specialized skills so that the students can find their work after graduation without going to college. Those are called vocational high schools. In high school, some students have the opportunity to take advanced placement classes. These are college-level classes. If the students pass an exam after taking AP classes, they can get college credit. In high school, students move from class to class throughout the school day. Not every parent looks forward to the day when their child goes off to school. In fact, some parents are not sending their students to school at all. Instead, they are choosing to teach their children at home. This is called homeschooling. Parents, caregivers, or private tutors educate children individually at home, or instead send them off to be formally educated in public or private schools. In the US, only about 3% of the children are homeschooled. There are many reasons why some parents choose to homeschool. One reason is that some parents do not feel their children are safe in school because of bullying and growing trend of police in school. Other parents want their children's education to be based on their religion or moral beliefs. Yet other parents feel like the education in school is not good enough. Homeschooling is also seen as a choice for families that live in rural areas and families that travel like actors. There are many different ways to homeschool, and homeschooling allows parents to customize lessons based on their children's needs. Families can purchase textbooks to use or create their own materials. Some parents who follow a philosophy called unschooling, which allows a child to determine when and how they want to learn based on their natural curiosity. Some worry that homeschooling means students won't have opportunities to socialize. To answer this concern, some families have created cooperatives, where a group of homeschooled students will learn and play together and participate in activities that would normally happen in school, like field trips and prom. Being homeschooled doesn't mean a student cannot go to college. Most colleges accept homeschooled students. It is important, however, for parents and students to create a portfolio or proof of what has been learned. When parents send their children to school, often they don't know what happens day to day. Parents rely on what their children tell them about what they are doing and what they are learning. Generally, schools will host parent-teacher conferences at least twice a year. Parent-teacher conferences are short meetings between parents and their children's teachers. Usually, parent-teacher conferences are held when teachers give out a student's grades for the term. The parent-teacher conferences give teachers an opportunity to let parents know how their child is doing. A teacher will let a parent know the student's strengths and bring to the parent's attention any problems with grades or behavior. The meetings also offer parents the opportunity to ask questions and see what their child is learning. When it is almost time for parent-teacher conferences, the school will send parents a note and usually give them an appointment time. There are appointments during the day and in the evening. Evening appointments are used for parents who work during the day. Parent-teacher conferences do not last very long. Normally, they do not last longer than 10 minutes. This is why it is important for parents to make sure they arrive at their appointments on time and come prepared with questions. If a parent needs more than 10 minutes, he or she should try to schedule another meeting with the teacher. Keeping a teacher for more than 10 minutes when there are parents waiting is disrespectful. Most children do not go along with their parents to the meetings. This allows both the parent and the teacher to talk honestly about the child's progress without making the child feel bad. Usually, a teacher will offer advice to the parent on how to support their child's education. Public school is available for kids from kindergarten through 12th grade free of charge. However, many families choose to pay for their children's primary and secondary education by sending them to private schools. There are many different types of private schools and many different reasons why parents send their kids there. Some private schools are military type, and yet others are boarding schools where students live on campus. Some private schools are affiliated with a certain religion. These schools teach a specific beliefs and traditions as well as regular academic subjects. There are schools run by Catholics, Protestants, Jewish people, Muslims, and Orthodox Christians. There are also private schools that specialize in teaching disabled students. Some parents choose private schools because they feel that they offer a better education than public schools. Others choose private schools because they offer a different type of curriculum. Waldorf schools, for example, only let children play and use items made of natural materials. Private schools are also called independent schools or non-state schools because they are not run by local, state, or national governments. They can pick up what students go to their schools. They do this through admission examinations and interviews. There is often an admissions application. Some private schools accept anyone who can pay tuition or money to send their children there. Some schools charge up to $45,000 a year. Private schools charge tuition because they do not get any money collected from local, state, and national taxes. Some private schools offer a limited number of scholarships to help pay for school. Many of these scholarships are need-based, meaning for students who can't afford the tuition. Other scholarships are offered for students with very good grades or for students that have a talent in a sport or art. California is the largest state in the United States of America. It is home to more than 10% of the country's total population. It also has the largest education system in the country. The college and university system is divided into 4 parts. Those parts are the University of California system, the California State University system, the community college system, and private institutions. The UC system has more than 230,000 students at its 10 campuses. It is considered the more prestigious system in the state. It includes top universities like UC Berkeley and the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA. Both schools rank in the top 25 universities in the country, with Berkeley in the top 10. A degree from the UC system is highly sought, and the academic standards are higher than the other systems. They are also more expensive. California State Universities count 23 universities in its systems. It is a diversified system that includes 2 polytechnic universities and a maritime university. These schools offer vocational and maritime education, but also offer traditional academic programs. The system's enrollment approximately 450,000 students, with about 45,000 faculty members. The California Community College system is the largest system of higher education in the state and the world. It boasts 112 campuses and serves approximately 2.4 million students. It offers transfer degrees, vocational training, and associate's degree programs. California is also home to a large number of privately owned and operated schools. These schools have no ties to the state school system, but some do accept transfer students from community colleges. The most notable and prestigious schools in the state are Stanford University in Palo Alto and the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. Driving in the U.S. can be confusing, not just because of all the rules and laws that drivers must follow, but also because of driving customs. Many people in the U.S. are really dependent on their cars to get to work and school. In fact, most American workers spend an hour driving to work each day. In order to drive in the U.S., you have to go through your local Department of Motor Vehicles first and take a written test to get your learner's permit. If you pass this test, you can practice driving so you can pass a road test and get your license. The Department of Motor Vehicles, or DMV, has free booklets you can go and get to study for your learner's permit. You can also access the information online and even take a practice written exam. To prepare for the road test, you can have a friend teach you to drive or pay to take classes at a driving school. You cannot, however, practice driving by yourself. If you are caught driving with only a learner's permit, you can get into trouble with the law. Once you get your driver's license in one state, you can use it to drive in all the United States. Wherever you drive, you will see signs posted along the road indicating the speed limit. These numbers are not a suggestion. Generally, you can drive faster on a highway than on local streets. Local police use special equipment to detect your speed. If they detect you are speeding or driving over the speed limit, police can stop you and give you a ticket. You will have to pay a fine, and some of the fines are more than $100. The lines painted on the road are not just to keep cars in their lanes. They send a message, for example. A solid double yellow line means that it is against the law to pass another car here. Each New Year's Day, the city of Pasadena in California hosts a celebration to welcome the year with a series of events that includes the Rose Parade. The parade takes place in the center of the city on Colorado Boulevard and features numerous floats, marching bands, equestrian teams, celebrities, and honorees. It is the most popular parade in the country. It has spawned several other New Year's Day parades throughout the country. In Miami, it's the Orange Bowl Parade. In New Orleans, it is the Sugar Bowl Parade. In Arizona, it's called the Fiesta Bowl Parade. However, the Rose Parade is the oldest and best parade. Many people like to camp out in tents or sleeping bags the night before to get the best locations to view the Rose Parade. To brave the cold weather, some people bring portable heaters to keep them warm. It can get into the low 40s at night in Pasadena during the winter, so many people dress warm for the occasion. Food is another big feature at the pre-parade celebration on New Year's Eve. People bring their portable grills to cook their favorite outdoor meals right on the sidewalk. The rich aroma of grilling food fills the night air, and most people are willing to share their food with other overnight campers. It is fun to sample different dishes from other grillers. As night turns into morning, there is still electricity in the air. People are excited about the start of the parade, which begins at 8 a.m. sharp. The floats are beautifully decorated in flowers, while the dancers and other performers dress in colorful costumes, some of which are made just for the parade. The marching band comes from nearby cities, high schools, and colleges. It is considered a great honor to participate in the Rose Parade. The self-portrait is nothing new. Painters and photographers have always used themselves as subjects. Today, however, almost everyone walks around with a camera in his or her pocket. This is because most cell phones have cameras on them. The fact that most people have cell phone cameras with them all the time has led to the rise of the selfie. A selfie is a self-portrait usually taken with a cell phone. Since the pictures are usually taken on a cell phone, many people tend to share these photographs with friends and even strangers on different social networking websites. Some of the popular social networking platforms people use to share selfies include Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook. People usually take selfies when they are engaged in normal day-to-day activities. They take selfies of their commutes to work or school. People take selfies of themselves eating. Other people take selfies to show what they are wearing or whom they are hanging out with. The most common way to take a selfie is by holding a cell phone at arm's length. Some people take selfies by taking a picture of their reflection in the mirror. In these pictures, you can usually see the phone of the person is taking a picture with. Selfies taken using a mirror are often taken in a bathroom, which some people think is offensive. The bathroom is a very private place, not a place to take pictures. Some people think that selfies are a sign that people are becoming vain or superficial. It is not often that people take pictures of themselves that make them look bad. When people take pictures of themselves, they usually are trying to present themselves in the best light. However, some people use selfies to show what they really look like. Some people are trying to challenge stereotypes of what makes someone attractive. In U.S. cities like New York and Los Angeles, many people live in small apartments. Despite not having homes with big yards, some apartment dwellers still seek the companionship that domesticated animals like dogs and cats offer. Some people feel that having a pet, even in a small space, is good for teaching children responsibility. However, many landlords forbid tenants from having pets, specifically cats and dogs, because of the damage the animals can do to carpets. Some landlords even forbid birds because of the noise they make. Many landlords charge an extra fee, known as a pet deposit, to tenants who want to keep the pets. This is to pay for repairs or cleaning caused by the pet. Many times, apartment dwellers will choose animals like fish, hermit crabs, guinea pigs, or hamsters that make little noise, little mess, and won't chew up the furniture. Other people keep lizards as pets since they don't require much space and can be kept in small cages or tanks. Another benefit of these smaller pets is that they don't need to be walked. However, some people who live in apartments have pets that are not so ordinary. Some of these less than ordinary pets include mammals like hedgehogs, amphibians like frogs, and spiders like tarantulas. Not all exotic pets are legal though. In order to maintain public safety, some cities and states have laws banning specific animals as pets. New York City, for example, bans people from keeping ferrets, snapping turtles, pythons, and scorpions as pets. It seems unlikely that a family would have a polar bear named Fluffy or a whale named Bubbles as a pet. New York City has specific laws banning these wild animals from residences. These laws exist for a good reason. In 2003, a man in a Manhattan apartment was discovered to have a 350-pound Bengal tiger as a pet. A wake is when people go to a deceased person's home or a funeral parlor to pay their last respects. A funeral parlor is a place where the preparation of the corpse for burial takes place. Part of the preparation can be dressing the deceased, doing their makeup, and placing them in a coffin for people to see. Some people do have a closed casket wake, where you can't see the dead person. Some people are not even choosing coffins for their dearly departed loved ones. In the United States, more and more families are choosing not to have traditional wakes. There is a recent trend of people having non-traditional wakes, with a deceased person posed doing something they loved doing when they were alive. For example, a family in New Orleans had their dead loved one posed at a table with a cigarette between her fingers and a can of beer. One funeral home in Puerto Rico has become famous for its non-traditional wakes. It all started in 2008 when a family asked for their dead loved one to be propped up against the wall of their home for the wake. When a paramedic died, his family had his dead body in the driver's seat of an ambulance. Another family had a man propped up in a fake boxing ring for his wake. One dead man was posed on top of his motorcycle. Recently, a grandmother was posed sitting in her rocking chair. These non-traditional wakes have their critics though. Some people think they are disrespectful. They think of a death as a solemn and sad occasion, not a time to pose the dead as if they were toys. Fans feel it helps them remember the dead as they were when they were alive. It is very common to see homeless people on the streets of Los Angeles. This is a problem that has persisted in the city since the beginning of the 20th century. Back in that time, California was known for offering many job opportunities in farming, and many young men were hopping on trains from all over the country to arrive in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, many of those men often ended up finding themselves without a job, a place to stay, or even food to eat. To help these people, many churches began to establish shelters in the area of Los Angeles that would eventually become downtown. Even as the farm landscape changed to a big city environment, these shelters remained a refuge for many individuals that found themselves homeless in the area. Nowadays, the homeless population of Los Angeles is made up of much more than just young men looking for work. Many economic and social changes have resulted in both men and women of all ages turning to the streets of Los Angeles. Some of them are there as a result of substance abuse that has left them moneyless and jobless. Others are veterans from various wars that cannot find the resources to get their normal lives. Additionally, many of these people suffer from mental disabilities that limit them from finding a job or being accepted in the rest of society. Since there are a lot of different causes that lead to homelessness, it is easy to see why finding solutions to helping all of the homeless people is so difficult. Although there are many programs that focus on providing the homeless food daily, it is much harder to find programs that try to assist the homeless in finding jobs and stable housing. In order to finally find a solution that will effectively help decrease the number of homeless people in the city, a lot more individualized attention must be placed on individuals based on their physical and mental health and circumstance. Some of the everyday heroes in the United States are the country's paramedics. These young men and women are usually the first people who respond to medical emergencies suffered by citizens. Paramedics must complete a very extensive physical training program that is designed to weed out those who cannot make the cut. A paramedic must be in fit condition and be mentally strong to perform his or her duties in the face of danger. Many of these heroes must endure life-threatening situations when responding to emergencies. Paramedics are usually attached to a county or city fire department, but there are also some private paramedic organizations. In Southern California, there are two primary schools for paramedic training. They are UCLA's Daniel Freeman Paramedic Program and the Paramedic Training Institute. Both of these schools provide candidates for the Los Angeles County and City Fire Departments. To become a paramedic for a county or city organization, candidates must also pass a psychological screening and a physical training program. Some of the equipment paramedics carry is very specialized. They carry basic and advanced life support gear, such as forcible entry tools so they can reach people in peril, saws to cut through obstacles, and other emergency equipment. Paramedics provide a valuable service to the communities they serve. They must be certified in the cardiopulmonary resuscitation techniques, or CPR, and be trained to handle all situations. Some paramedics are trained to respond to what is called mass casualty incidents. These emergencies occur when there is a tragic event such as September 11, 2001 attacks on the country, and other emergencies like earthquakes, mudslides, or floods. Paramedics can also be sent to emergency situations by citizens who call the 911 emergency phone number. One of the darkest days in American history was September 11, 2001. This is a day that will live in infamy for most Americans. It was the most tragic day in the history of the country since December 7, 1941, when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. September 11th was the day Muslim extremists hijacked 4 commercial airliners in an attempt to destroy the American spirit by slamming those jets into 4 buildings. 3 of the 4 jets reached their targets, while 1 was stopped by a group of everyday heroes who gave their lives for their country. In the early morning hours on 9/11, American Airlines Flight 11 slammed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. A few minutes later, Flight 175, also an American Airlines flight, struck the South Tower. Both suicide attacks brought the towers down, but not immediately. It took time for the extreme heat from the burning jet fuel to weaken the towers to their eventual collapse. At about the same time, American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon, which is a government building in the country's capital, Washington, D.C. The 4th flight, United Airlines Flight 93, was also headed for the capital city. Most people think its target was either the Capitol building or the White House, the president's home. A group of brave passengers, upon hearing the news of what has happened in the country, decided to take down the giant airplane even though they knew they would not survive. They stormed the cockpit and took the controls from the hijackers. The plane flew out of control, crashing into a field in the state of Pennsylvania, where all passengers were killed. In all, more than 3,000 Americans lost their lives on that day, but the American spirit was not suppressed. Those responsible for the attacks were quickly dealt with, and the country soon began its journey to recovery. September 11, 2001, a day America will never forget. Some of the most majestic landscape views in California are the great California redwood and sequoia trees. These trees can be seen up close at Sequoia National Park in the southern Sierra Nevada mountain range, east of the city of Visalia. This Central California region boasts more than 400,000 acres of natural beauty that is uniquely Californian. The park is known as the Land of the Giants because of its beautiful trees. The landscape features great mountains, foothills, deep canyons, a large cavern system, and of course, the world's largest trees. The park sits side by side with Kings Canyon National Park in the stunning San Joaquin Valley. Sequoia National Park was officially established as a national park in the 1890s. It features 14 campsites that include picnic tables, fire rings for outdoor cooking, and food storage boxes. It is a great place for a family vacation, with many of its campsites open year-round. But most of the popular attractions are its forests. The ancient trees are some of the oldest living organisms on Earth and draw millions of visitors worldwide. Redwood trees can reach heights of more than 375 feet. They are also closely related to the giant sequoia trees and are often mistaken for each other. They both are uniquely Californian, as they do not grow naturally in any other region in the world. Redwood trees live up to 2,000 years and have branches that grow up to 5 feet in diameter. Its bark can grow up to 12 inches thick. The giant sequoia trees can live up to an astonishing 3,000 years and have branches up to 8 feet in diameter. Its bark can grow to an amazing thickness of 3 feet. Both trees have dark brown bark and look very similar, but the redwood thrives in coastal climate while the sequoia exists in a more mountainous area. In either case, they are a must-see California attraction. There are many law enforcement agencies in the United States, and especially in California. Some of the largest agencies in Southern California are the Los Angeles Police Department and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Both of these police forces are some of the largest in the country. They handle a full range of police duties, ranging from traffic citations to murder, rape, and robbery cases. There are also a number of smaller police agencies operating side by side with the LAPD and LA County Sheriff's Department. Cities such as Monterey Park have their own police force, while smaller cities depend on the Sheriff's Department for their law enforcement needs. Because of the unique nature of the state, California created the California Highway Patrol. The CHP, as it is usually called, is a police agency that is entrusted with patrolling the vast number of freeway miles that exist in California. The state was built during a time of great mobility after the advent of the personal vehicle. Because of this, the state has more freeway miles than any other state in the United States, with the exception of Texas. However, California has the most licensed drivers and by far the most registered vehicles. This made it necessary to create a police force dedicated to its highways. CHP officers are endowed with the same powers other police officers have. However, they do not have crime investigation team for any offense other than traffic-related crimes. Whenever the CHP first responds to a crime that is not traffic-related, its officers perform the same duties as a regular officer does. It then turns investigations over to the LAPD or Sheriff's Office depending on the location of the crime. The CHP has a long and storied history. Many young Californians, both male and female, are attracted to the CHP and enroll into its academy in Sacramento, the state's capital. One of the most beautiful and recognizable California landmarks is the Golden Gate Bridge in the city of San Francisco. The bridge spans the San Francisco Bay and is part of a network of 5 main bridges that cross the bay in the San Francisco-Oakland area. The region with its bay has one of the most breathtaking views in the world, and part of which is the historic Golden Gate Bridge. It is perhaps the most iconic and recognizable landmark in the entire United States. Construction on the bridge began in 1933, while the country was deeply mired in the Great Depression. Many people think the bridge was, in large part, responsible for the country's economic recovery because of the number of workers employed. The material used to build the bridge also contributed to the manufacturing, distribution, and transportation. The bridge connects San Francisco to the San Francisco Peninsula in Marin County through both California State Route 1 and US Route 101. Before the bridge was built, the only way to get from one location to the other was to go around the bay, or to take a ferry across. Construction of the bridge was controversial at the time. Many thought the project was simply too complex, expensive, and dangerous to build. The construction plan approved concentrated on safety for the workers who would be involved in the construction, and it worked well until February 17, 1937. Remarkably, only one worker had died up to that date, but on that date, a scaffolding collapsed, killing 10 men in the tragic accident. The bridge was completed later that year and has been in use ever since. It is one of California's great landmarks, with people from all over the world drawn to see it. One of the most historic and significant landmarks in the United States is the San Francisco cable car system. It is the world's only manually operated cable car system. It is run by the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency. The system dates back to 1878, when the California Street Line first opened. In all, there are 3 lines currently operating in the city, and boasts a fleet of 12 cable cars. There used to be 23 lines in use throughout the city, connecting the diverse communities that make up San Francisco. The open-air cars are a major tourist attraction and are still used by San Francisco commuters on a daily basis. The simple reason cable cars were first used in the city was because of its landscape. San Francisco is very hilly, which makes it impossible for municipal buses to scale. The solution for this problem was the cable car. These cars are literally pulled by a cable up and down the steep hills of the city, making it easier for people to get from one end of the city to the other. There are 2 types of cars in use today: single-ended cars and double-ended cars. The single-ended cars have open-sided sections with seats that face outward to the street. The rear section of these cars is enclosed with seats facing the interior of the car. These cars seat 29 passengers. They travel in both directions by using a swivel-based turntable that turns the car at the end of the line. The double-ended cars are a bit larger and can hold up to 68 passengers. It has 34 seats and grips for an additional 34 standing passengers. The best feature of these cars is the pure fun they are to ride. People who ride the San Francisco cable cars are stepping into a part of California's history. Car chases in the Los Angeles area are a fairly regular occurrence. In 2013, there were over 700 car chases. Car chases, also have become a source of entertainment. Many car chases are captured on video and broadcast live as they are happening. No one has to wait until the 6 o'clock news comes on anymore to find out what happened. People can tune into their local broadcast television station and see it happening in real time. These car chases are often captured with the help of the news channel helicopter. The helicopter follows and films the chase through the streets, reporting what streets the cars are passing through. People like watching car chases for many reasons. They are intense and filled with drama. A viewer never knows what will happen next. Will the driver give up easily? Does the driver have a weapon? Will the driver get into an accident? Will someone crossing the street get hit? Tune in to find out. Many channels see their ratings soar when they air car chases. They are just giving the people what they want. Police are not always happy with the media covering car chases live on the air. Police worry that people trying to escape enjoy the attention. Police feel that broadcasting car chases encourages people to escape. Police also worry that the attention brings innocent bystanders to the street. Someone could get hurt. The media insists they have the right to show car chases. They feel they are informing the public. Car chases happen for many reasons. Sometimes police will chase someone who stole a car. Other times the police may try to do a routine traffic stop. However, the driver with the broken taillight may have a warrant for arrest. So off he drives. In Los Angeles, places associated with death are often popular. One such popular place is the Department of Medical Examiner Coroner. When someone dies and the cause of death is undetermined or suspicious, the body is brought here for examination. It is the coroner's job to determine the time, cause, and manner of death. Sometimes the coroner will have to perform an autopsy, which is like an operation on a dead body to try to figure out how the person died. One of the reasons the LA Coroner's Office is so popular is because the number of famous people who have been examined there. Some of those people include Marilyn Monroe, Robert F. Kennedy, Michael Jackson, and Whitney Houston. The Los Angeles Coroner's Office is also so popular that there is even a gift shop where visitors can buy items like shirts, caps, and mugs with the coroner's logo on them. One t-shirt people can buy even says, "Our bodies of work speak for themselves." They even sell beach towels with body outlines. The store is open 5 days a week. They also have a website and a paper catalog for those who are not close enough to visit. The coroner's office claims the purpose of the store is to tell people how fragile life is and to create awareness and responsibility towards one's actions. Some people feel that having a store in the same place where the dead people are is disrespectful. There have been a number of television shows about the LA Coroner's Office. Some of these are reality TV shows featuring what workers really do there. An example is called Death Detectives. Other shows are fictional like Quincy Me. The ME stands for Medical Examiner, the person who performs the autopsies. On one of New York City's most famous avenues, Fifth Avenue, is Museum Mile. Museum Mile is a 23-block stretch that holds some of the most famous museums in the world. Museum Mile begins at 85th Street and 5th Avenue with the massive Metropolitan Museum of Art. Inside is thousands of years' worth of art and artifacts. A visitor can visit an entire Egyptian tomb, sit in a Japanese-style garden, view Renaissance paintings, and ancient Greek and Roman sculptures. There is even a gallery featuring musical instruments. In the summer, there is a rooftop garden where there are spectacular views of the city, especially of Central Park. The Guggenheim on 88th Street and 5th Avenue looks a little bit like a snail shell from the outside. When it opened in the 1950s, the swirling architecture designed by Frank Lloyd Wright was thought to be ugly by many. This museum focuses on modern art, but sometimes features special exhibits, like one they had a few years ago of the ancient Mexican ruins. The National Academy Museum of School and Fine Arts on 91st Street and 5th Avenue is the city's oldest art school, dating back to 1825. The Jewish Museum on 93rd Street and 5th Avenue tells 4,000 years worth of Jewish history. Up 10 blocks on 103rd Street and 5th Avenue is the Museum of the City of New York, showcasing the history of the Big Apple from its colonial start. One block up on 104th Street and 5th Avenue is El Museo del Barrio. This museum started as a space to reflect the city's large Puerto Rican migrant community. Now it features exhibits focusing on art from all over Latin America. Across the avenue is a Central Park Conservatory Garden, with a fountain that has a sculpture of 3 dancing life-size women. The Empire State Building may be the most famous building in New York City. It is called the Empire State Building because New York State is called the Empire State. It is 1,454 feet tall. Many people think it is the tallest building in the world. This was true when it was built in 1931. In 1970, when the World Trade Center was built, that became the tallest building. Now, the Empire State Building is the 4th tallest building in the US and the 23rd tallest in the world. Inside the building is mostly occupied by offices and stores. People can go to the top of the building where there is an observation deck. From the top, there are beautiful views of New York City, especially at night. Most people take one of the 73 elevators to the top. It takes less than 1 minute by elevator to get to the 80th floor. That is where there is a gift shop. Some people walk 1,860 steps to the top. Every year, there is even a race with people competing to see who can walk up to the top the fastest. The landmark is not famous because of its height. In 1945, a small plane crashed into it. More than 30 people have tried to kill themselves by jumping off the building. In 1933, it was featured in the movie King Kong, where a giant gorilla climbs to the top and falls to his death after being attacked by airplanes. The building was also in the movie Sleepless in Seattle with Tom Hanks. At night, the top of the Empire State Building is lit up in different colors. It is red and green on Christmas, red for the Lunar New Year, and blue for Hanukkah. On the 4th of July, it is red, white, and blue. Most people don't know the full name of the Statue of Liberty is the Statue of Liberty Enlightening the World. She is a symbol of freedom, especially for many immigrants. When many immigrants came to the United States in the late 1800s, Lady Liberty in New York Harbor was a sign to tell them that they had made it to America. Inside the base of the statue, there is a plaque with a famous poem written on it. The poem is The New Colossus by Emma Lazarus. Many immigrants feel that this poem speaks to them and the reasons they came to America. One line of the poem is, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." Lady Liberty was not always green. She used to be copper-colored, but the years have caused the copper to change color. The 151-foot tall sculpture was a 100th birthday gift from France to the United States in 1886. It is located on Liberty Island, right off of the southern tip of Manhattan, New York City. The only way to get there is to take a ferry. Inside the base of the statue is a museum. To get to the crown, people have to climb 377 steps up a double spiral staircase from the feet of the statue. There is no elevator. People need to be in good shape to climb to the top. People used to be able to climb up to the torch of the statue, but it was shut down because it was dangerous. It was easy to fall off. About 4 million people visit the Statue of Liberty every year. People who can go to New York can see the replicas in Las Vegas and other parts of the world. Rockefeller Center is a complex of 19 buildings. It is named for a famous New York City business magnate named John D. Rockefeller, who built a group of buildings from 1930 through 1939. The most famous building in the complex is the General Electric building, where NBC television studios are based. It is smack in the middle of Manhattan, New York City, between 5th and 6th Avenue, and between 48th and 51st Streets. The address of the G building is 30 Rockefeller Plaza. That's how the show 30 Rock got its name. The show was filmed there. Saturday Night Live, a popular American late-night show, is also filmed there. Visitors can get tickets to see how a show is taped and can also tour the studios. Visitors to Rockefeller Center can visit the plaza, which becomes an ice skating rink in the winter. Every year, a huge Christmas tree is placed there and thousands of people attend the tree lighting ceremony, which also features famous singers. In the spring, summer, and fall, the plaza becomes a cafe. In the middle of the plaza is a statue of the Greek god Prometheus. His myth states that he brought fire to the world. 200 flags from all countries of the United Nations surround the plaza. Radio City Music Hall is another famous building in Rockefeller Center. Many musicians give the concerts here. but it is best known as the home of the Rockettes, a dance company named for Rockefeller Center. They are famous for their kick lines and are best known for performing in the Radio City Christmas Spectacular, an annual musical holiday stage show. Manhattan is a small island that is one part of New York City. New York City, the Big Apple, is actually made up of 5 sections called boroughs. These boroughs are Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, and the Bronx. Manhattan has the most people of all the boroughs, about 1.5 million. Even though it is the smallest borough by size, if you send a letter to someone who lives on Manhattan, don't write Manhattan on the envelope. You should write New York, New York, like the famous Frank Sinatra song. Because the island is so small, most people live and work in tall buildings. Some of these buildings are called skyscrapers because it looks like they are touching the sky. Some famous skyscrapers in Manhattan are Empire State Building, Chrysler Building, 70 Pine Street, Trump Building, GE Building, and Citigroup Center. Manhattan is connected to other boroughs by a series of bridges and tunnels. The most famous bridge may be the Brooklyn Bridge because of its brick arches. The New York City subway, a massive mass transit that mostly runs underground, also connects the island to the rest of the boroughs. Manhattan, like the other boroughs, has many different neighborhoods, many of which are named for the ethnic communities that first lived there. Some of these neighborhoods include Little Italy, Little Germany, Little Brazil, Chinatown, and Koreatown. One of the most famous parts of Manhattan is Times Square. Times Square is called the crossroads of the world. Every year, millions of people gather there on New Year's Eve to watch an illuminated crystal ball drop. There are many theaters around Times Square. Most of these theaters are on Broadway, a famous street considered the home of the American theater industry. Another famous Manhattan street is Fifth Avenue. A part of the avenue features expensive designer stores like Tiffany's. Fifth Avenue is also famous for its Museum Mile. For many years, gambling in the United States was legal only in the state of Nevada. Nevada is a western state that is east of California, south of Oregon and Idaho, west of Utah, and north of Arizona. It is a desert state where little rain falls during the year. It is a little more than 275 miles from the city of Los Angeles, which is where most of its visitors come from. Driving from Los Angeles is about 4 hours. Las Vegas, which means the meadows in Spanish, was established by the Mexicans in the mid-1800s. Much of what is now the southwestern part of the United States was then part of the Mexican Empire. The city was a railroad town, established in 1905, and the first legal casinos appeared in 1931. Las Vegas is now a gambling town, where people from all over the United States come to vacation. Its population is under 2 million, making it the 30th largest city in the country. Its original population in 1905 was only 5,000. Much of the city's growth is due to the gambling industry. Many states have since legalized gambling, including New Jersey and California, but Las Vegas remains the number one tourist city for gamblers in the U.S. Today, some of its largest and most beautiful hotels include Bellagio, Flamingo, Caesar's Palace, Treasure Island, Mandalay Bay, and Wynn. These hotels are on Las Vegas Boulevard, which is commonly called the Strip. With its nearly year-round sunshine, beautiful casinos, and variety of gaming options, Las Vegas remains the best location for gambling in the U.S. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was one of the most successful and well-liked children's show in the history of public television. Public TV differs from the more common commercial television in that it is not funded by advertising revenue. Public television is a network of television stations throughout the country that is dedicated to bringing alternative programming to the people of the United States. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood ran from February 1968 through August 2001 and was hosted by the show's namesake, Fred Rogers. It was a half-hour children's show that featured the popular Rogers as host. It is often referred to as the Mr. Rogers Show. Rogers began his show in 1953 on a PBS station in the northeast part of the country as the Children's Corner. He performed as a puppeteer, and it was aired on live television. There, Rogers developed many of the characters that would become famous as the show progressed. In 1967, his show went on national TV stage and remained there until 2001. Rogers' style and calm demeanor made him an instant celebrity who was well liked by both children and adults. In his early life, Rogers studied to become a Presbyterian minister, but didn't like how children's programming was being presented. He began writing children's songs and soon began his own local show on public television. During the next 3 decades, Rogers became a true American icon through his show. His great compassion, morality, and patience were possibly his most liked characteristics. Rogers was not only a great TV personality, he was also a human rights advocate. He received the Presidential Medal of Freedom as well as the Peabody Award for Meritorious Public Service. Rogers was inducted into the Television Hall of Fame and has received approximately 40 honorary degrees. The Cinco de Mayo, or 5th of May, is a holiday celebrating Mexican Independence Day. In the United States, before 1776, much of the southern and western states, such as Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, Nevada, Arizona, and California, were part of Mexico. Following the war between the U.S. and Mexico in the 1800s, these states became part of the United States, but there still remained a very large Mexican population. The Latino population is the largest single ethnic group in the country. It accounts for 17% of the nation's population, and 63% of those Latinos are of Mexican origin. The Cinco de Mayo is a large celebration in the country's southwest region. It celebrates the Mexican victory in the Battle of Puebla against France on May 5th, 1862. Curiously, the day is celebrated more in the United States than it is in Mexico itself. In Los Angeles, the city celebrates the event with the Fiesta Broadway, which is the largest Cinco de Mayo celebration in the world. More than 500,000 people come to downtown LA to participate in the street fair that covers 24 square blocks. The celebration takes place on the last Sunday of April. There are rides, games, and especially food at this celebration, and it is growing every year. Los Angeles is not the only Southland city to host Cinco de Mayo celebrations. The cities of Corona, West Los Angeles, and Commerce also have events, and the famous Olvera Street celebration in downtown LA is also very popular. One of the most unique Cinco de Mayo events takes place in Hancock Park district of Los Angeles. It is called the Cinco de Mayo. This celebration is an annual charity event that began in 1999. It is a private party that benefits the homeless by providing shelter and support. Cinco de Mayo is a truly American celebration. On December 7th, 1941, the United States of America was attacked by the Imperial Japanese Navy at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The surprise attack was intended to destroy the American Pacific Fleet that stood in the way of Japan's complete domination of the Pacific Ocean during the 1940s. The attack was coordinated with attacks in the Philippines, Malaya, Singapore, and Hong Kong. Pearl Harbor was attacked by more than 350 Japanese airplane fighters, bombers, and torpedo planes that were launched from 6 aircraft carriers. The early morning attack sank 4 U.S. battleships, and 4 more were heavily damaged. 6 of the 8 battleships were restored and returned to service, but the Japanese also destroyed or damaged 3 cruisers, 3 destroyers, a mine layer, and an anti-aircraft training ship. In addition, 188 U.S. aircraft were destroyed, with many of them on the ground. The attack was devastating. It took the U.S. years to recover from all the damage caused on that fateful morning. However, the Japanese were unable to destroy their main targets, the Navy's aircraft carriers. By what some call a stroke of luck, the U.S. carrier fleet was out to sea at the time of the attack. The country was in shock at the news of the disaster. U.S. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt called the attack cowardly and declared 7th as a day that will live in infamy. On December 8th, the United States formally declared war on Japan. This plummeted the country into World War II, which Roosevelt had long hoped to avoid. Soon after the United States' declaration war against Japan, Germany, which was a Japanese ally, declared war on the U.S., and the country was now fully involved in the greatest war in the history of the world. America is one of the most diversified countries in the world. It is comprised of many different cultures from Latin America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. It is truly a melting pot of diversity. All these cultures have come together to create a new culture, an American culture. Many of the traditions, customs, religions, and celebrations of these cultures have been adopted into American culture, including funeral traditions. Traditional American funerals are basic. They usually include some sort of religious ritual, followed by a procession to the burial grounds, and a small ceremony at the gravesite, but these vary depending on the culture. At most American funerals, the deceased person's family sends out a death announcement called an obituary. These obits normally serve to pass information to others about the deceased and the time and day of the funeral event. At the church service, the deceased is usually eulogized by friends and family. This is where a person goes up to the front of the crowd to say a few things about the deceased and how he or she affected their life. The procession usually takes the form of a caravan of private cars and trucks that follow the hearse, which contains the deceased coffin and remains. At the gravesite, another small ritual takes place where the deceased is given a blessing from a member of the clergy. Friends and family are then allowed to say goodbye to the deceased. There is an American tradition of picking up a handful of soil and tossing it on the coffin as a way of saying farewell to the deceased. The family then gathers at a home or restaurant with some of the attendees to have a meal and to exchange stories before going on their way. Most cultures in the U.S. have adopted this traditional American funeral ritual, but many include features that are unique to their individual culture. One of the most significant dates in the history of the United States is November 22nd, 1963. That is the day President John Fitzgerald Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas, while riding in an open-air car. The president was visiting Texas for the first time since his inauguration in January 1961. Kennedy was one of the most popular presidents in the history of the United States and still remains so today. His death shocked the nation for several reasons, but mostly because it was televised on live broadcasts. Kennedy was the first president to appear on television at a time when most Americans owned a TV. He was not the first president to be televised, but previous presidents who appeared on TV did not reach the general public because before 1960, not many Americans owned a set. Kennedy was warned not to ride in an open-air car that day by his bodyguards, but he wanted the public to see him live. He did not want to be hidden behind an armored car. According to the official government commission, Kennedy fell victim to a single assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, but many Americans dispute that finding to this date. Police say Oswald shot the president from a building while Kennedy rode in his car with his wife. The mood was festive at the time as the city of Dallas welcomed the president to Texas. Kennedy was a handsome, young president who was the youngest man ever to reach the presidency. Oswald later killed a Dallas police officer during his escape from the crime scene, but was soon found hiding in a movie theater. He required police protection from an outraged public and was held in protective custody. Oswald, who was a former member of the U.S. military, was unhappy with the president for his policies, but never admitted to being the assassin. Conspiracy theories involving rival political parties, the Cuban government, and organized crime have also been advanced as to who actually killed Kennedy. Generally, people's class is defined by how much money they make. In the US, generally, there are three classes: poor, middle class, and rich. Some people also think there is another class in between poor and middle class called working class. United States culture is based on the idea that people can move up the economic ladder and become middle class or even rich if they were born poor. This is the idea of going from rags to riches. Moving up the class ladder is not easy though. Higher education needed to get a good paying job is expensive. Class in the United States is more than just how much money a person makes though. Education, what job a person has, where they live, and the culture all play a role in what class a person will be classified as. For example, a person with only a high school diploma and a low-paying service job may be considered poor or low class, while a person with a PhD who owns their own company would be considered high class or wealthy. In a way, this makes sense because high-paying jobs usually require a high-level education. But for some people, class is something you are born with. For example, the children of billionaire Donald Trump were born rich and upper class without having done anything to earn that status. Gender plays a role too in how someone can move up the economic ladder. Women earn less than men do, so it is harder for them to accumulate wealth. Race also plays a role in how much people earn and their ability to move up the economic ladder. In the United States, most families require both the man and the woman to work in order to support the household. Rosa Parks is a prime example of how an ordinary American can change the world around her. She was born in 1913 in the southern state of Alabama. Parks became famous for challenging a discriminatory policy in the city of Montgomery, Alabama. During the 1950s, Black Americans in the South were not allowed to ride in the front seats of public buses if a white person needed that seat. Blacks were expected to get out of their seats and go to the back of the bus, which was designated as colored only. On December 1st, 1955, Parks refused to obey the bus driver's order to surrender her seat to a white passenger who had boarded the bus, even though Parks was seated in the colored-only section. The bus was filled, and she was required by law to give her seat to the white rider. Parks was arrested and charged with civil disobedience. She later said she had grown tired of giving in. Her arrest and subsequent trial made Parks a national symbol for the civil rights movement. Her arrest also led to the Montgomery bus boycott that was a political and social protest campaign against racial segregation. Although the boycott only lasted 21 days, it was instrumental in the Supreme Court decision to declare Alabama's practice of segregation unconstitutional. Parks has remained a symbol for the civil rights movement, even after her death in 2005 at the age of 92. She has been called the First Lady of Civil Rights by the United States Congress and the mother of the freedom movement. She has been honored by the U.S. government with prestigious awards such as the Presidential Medal of Freedom and Congressional Gold Medal. She has been honored with her own museum in Michigan and has received several other civil rights awards both before and after her death. Chicago is known as the Windy City. Some people think this is because of the breeze that blows almost constantly. The city is located in the state of Illinois, on the shore of one of the Great Lakes, Lake Michigan, which is the fifth largest freshwater body in the world. Chicago may also be called the Windy City because of the wind tunnel effect created in downtown by many tall buildings. Skyscrapers are an important part of Chicago's history. The first skyscraper in the U.S. was built in the city in 1884. At only 10 stories, it was impressive for its time. The skyscraper was eventually demolished. Chicago is home of the other famous firsts. It was the birthplace of the refrigerated rail car, mail order catalogs, the car radio, the TV remote control, the first Ferris wheel, the first steel railroad, the first planetarium in the Western Hemisphere. Chicago is also home of the first blood bank and the first drive-in bank. It is also the home to the Lincoln Park Zoo, the oldest public zoo in the U.S. Maybe the Windy City should be called the City of Firsts. Chicago is the third most populous city in the U.S., after New York City and Los Angeles. A little more than 2.5 million people live in the city that has more than 100 neighborhoods. President Barack Obama used to live in Chicago. Nearly 40 million people visit Chicago every year. Many of them visit the Willis Tower, formerly known as the Sears Tower. It is the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere. It takes only a minute to get up to the 103rd floor skydeck, thanks to some of the fastest elevators in the world. From the skydeck, visitors can see 4 states: Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin.